Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. If you don't know me, my name is Nicoletta. I am the academic director and also teacher trainer at English One. Thank you for joining me. So 2 weeks ago, I did a lesson. I started working with you guys on academic English and understanding what university preparation is all about. And one of you guys asked if I would talk about summarizing. And I'd like to start by saying thanks to Sadiq, who asked me to talk about it. And so for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be discussing it. Please pop me a message if you want to ask any questions. I am super happy to answer them, and I will also get back to you after the video with some answers or any other questions that you may want to ask me. I'll be available for that too. So, summarizing. What is it? I'll tell you what it isn't. It isn't a rewrite of the original text. A summary is a short outline of a text which expresses the main ideas and relevant details of the text that you're reading or listening, for the matter of fact. For example, a lecture at university. I'm often asked why it's important to summarize or why it's important to learn to summarize. So I'm going to take you back a little bit to my own experiences with studying to drive the idea in. And summarizing ultimately teaches students to discern the most important ideas and to ignore irrelevant information. It's helpful to, in order to integrate central ideas in a more meaningful way. And it also helps to reinforce your memory or strengthen your memory. And I say this with the utmost respect to everybody who studies out there or who has been in the situation of having to read piles and piles and piles of books and textbooks and try to memorize everything. It's really, really tough. So I'm just going to take you there. Imagine that you have been given a bunch of stuff to study, and there's a lot of work that you have to get through, a lot of reading, and you have to be able to then express what was in that text without, rewriting or saying everything that's in that text. Just trying to read it and memorize it is a really, really tall order, and respect to those who do. But if that is the modus operandi for many students, that's totally fine. But if you're like me and most students, it doesn't work. It's not realistic. It's not sustainable. So one way to learn a mountain of work is to learn to summarize. Summarize it in smaller chunks, in paragraphs that are more manageable, so that when you review or study, perhaps on the bus, on your way home, you're not having to deal with mountains of work. I always find that summarizing makes learning more manageable. So the same goes for attending a lecture. The same principles apply. If you're going to attend a lecture and you need to then have written notes about what you listened to and learn it, you can't think that writing everything that the lecturer has said is going to work. It's going to be really difficult for you to do that. So your notes that you have taken while attending the lecture have to be transferred into a summary. So the same the same principles that you would use to summarize a written text, you would use to summarize what you've heard and taken notes of. So, we could talk about summarizing forever, but I'm going to for lack of better words, summarize it. Now, I'm going to bullet point it into seven steps that you need to follow in order to have given yourself the best opportunity to summarize. These are the steps that are going to help you make sure that you have done everything that you can to have created a good summary. So, love my technology. All right. These are the 7 steps. I'm going to put them like that. I'm hoping that you can see it. Hi, guys. Isam, I know it's you. Hello. Good to see you again. All right. These are the 7 steps, guys. So the first thing you need to do is you need to read and really understand the content. And when I say read, I mean really carefully. Trying to understand just the gist or the main points is not going to help you. You really need to know. You really need to read the content very, very carefully. And if you're listening, perhaps it's a good idea to record the lecture. However, you need to ask for permission first. I allow my students to record the lessons so that they are able to go back and listen to them again afterwards. It's good because you miss things out, and ultimately you want to be able to go back and say, oh, the teacher said this, I can't remember what she said, and they can go back and listen to it. But you really need to ask for permission. Then you need to understand what the purpose of the text is. Ask yourself the question, what is the writer or the speaker for the matter of fact, what is the writer's purpose? You need to answer that question to yourself. So ask that question and answer it. Then only should you go and pinpoint what the main ideas are. Now, this is something that students often miss out. They try to find the main ideas without really understanding the context. Sorry, not the context, the content of the text. You really need to know both. But first content, and then pinpoint the main ideas. Then you want to select the most important of those ideas. And we're going to get to that. Once you've selected the most important ideas, you are then ready to start summarizing. So those first 4 are precursors. Without doing those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can't start summarizing. Once you've got that information, then only can you start to change the structure of the text. And that is important because the summary needs to have a variety. It needs to show a variety of vocab. Once you've decided how you're going to change the structure of the text, you're then going to rewrite those main ideas. So whatever you heard, whatever main idea you heard, or that you decided was important or read, are the ones that you are going to then change so that they mean the same, but you're using different words. The very, very last thing that you're going to do is check your work and then edit it. You have to check and edit. So, some of the questions that I'm asked with regards to summarizing, and it's linked to the steps that one needs to go through in order to summarize. The most common questions I get asked are, how do I know what an important piece of information is? It's a very, very good question, because particularly if you're a language student and you've got just this horde of words in front of you, it's quite overwhelming to try and discern what is important from what is irrelevant. And then you've also got to contend with the fact that you might not understand everything that you are reading, and you're trying to understand the context and infer meaning, and a lot goes into it. So what you need to remember is that before you can pick up on what the important facts are, it goes back to really explicitly understanding the content of the text. No, just understanding the gist, more or less, and then trying to figure out what is important is not going to work. Understand the text explicitly. If you're at university, chances are that what you are studying, you have good knowledge about. So you study medicine, you know what the content is about. The technical words are going to be all there for you. So, try to make sure that you've understood that content really, really well. Once you have understood that content, then you need to scan the text for evidence that supports that main idea. That is important. So, to reiterate, read the text really, really well. Make sure that you have understood the content, not just the gist. You really know what's going on. Then scan the text for evidence that supports what you believe is the main idea. If there's no evidence that supports, then it's not an important point. Put it aside and find it. So evidence for a main idea. No evidence, not a main idea. Another question that I'm asked a lot, and not only by language students, but by native speakers. It seems like an easy thing, but it is not. It actually can be quite confusing. What is the difference between summarizing and paraphrasing? So my fantastic technology comes up again. There you go. The difference between summarizing and paraphrasing. So with a summary, you are taking into account, you are writing a brief account of the main points. Those main points need to be rewritten, reworded, but have to have exactly the same meaning. And it's taking generally a large amount of information and condensing it a bit more. In fact, I've written it there. That side, left and right. So it condenses the text. So you're taking a large amount of information and you are shrinking it down by writing a brief account of those main points. Whereas with the paraphrase, it might just be a topic sentence, for example, of an essay that you need to rewrite. So you just reword that text to clarify the context, not necessarily to just shrink it down. A summary can be selective. In a way, it is selective because you are responsible for picking the main points of that text. So it is selective when the paraphrase has to be specific. All right. The summary condenses the text, makes it smaller. That's why it's so useful for university students that have to study piles and piles of textbooks. It takes that mountain of work and shrinks it down to a manageable size. When a paraphrase doesn't condense, it clarifies. All right, so the differences are there. Okay, then Another question I get asked, hi Hardy. Another question I get asked is, are there any strategies that I can use to make sure that I am summarizing well? Yes, there are a few. And I have my favorites, but as an academic, one needs to choose a technique not only based on what you feel comfortable with, but based on what you're studying and what the task at hand is. But I'm going to chat to you a little bit about my favorite one, and it is the one that I find most useful and easy for language students. It sounds fancy, but it's really not. And it is related to juxtaposing. So what is juxtaposing? And just so that you've got it, I'm writing it in the comment box. It's a wonderful literacy device. There you go. Juxtaposing, there you go. So juxtaposing your summary against the original text sounds super fancy and all complicated and complex, but it's actually very simple. So when you juxtapose, you put two things or ideas or actions side by side for comparison and contrast. And a common example is better late than never. So if you think about that very, very common expression, it's better to be late than never. So being late is bad, but never arriving is worse. Juxtaposition, right? Another one, a bit fancier though, is all is fair in love and war. Love, good. War, bad. Juxtaposing. So if you juxtapose your summary to the original text and you find that it's exactly the same, I'm afraid that it's not a summary. You have to start again. I wonder if I've just scrambled your brains. I hope not. Reiterate. If you take your text and you put it next to the summary that you have created, and they look pretty much the same words, same structure, you're going to have to relook at it. All right? Juxtapose your essay. Sorry, summary. Hi, Khalid. I miss you too. Okay, friends. Like many aspects of academic English, summarizing and doing it well takes not only practice, but it takes exploring different techniques and isolating the ones that work well for you and work well for you in a specific task. And obviously, let's not forget vocabulary. It's absolutely imperative that you increase your range of collocations and expressions and synonyms, because all of that goes hand in hand with summarizing. So it's not just a matter of, okay, now I've got the 7 steps and I'm going to summarize. Oh, I've learned how to juxtapose. Cool. That's not going to work if your bank of lexis is low. I'm pretty sure that if you've been in an English language class or you've studied academic English, someone would have told you that you need to read, and read some more in order to increase that bank of vocab. Also, listening to TED Talks is amazing. Educational TED Talks. TED Talk for ESL is wonderful. Are fantastic ways of listening in on different vocab. And the wonderful part about that sort of exercise is that the majority of these videos, these TED Talks, are not by native speakers, which is wonderful. So you're also increasing that sort of global English language, English from all over the world. English spoken by non-natives is exceptionally important because they make the bulk of language speakers. I speak under correction. I don't know. Maybe it's changed. Maybe statistics have changed. But if you really look at who, I always ask my students, how many people do you speak English to every day that are native speakers? Most times they just say, my teacher, my host family, but everybody else is a non-native. So gaining the vocab from all over, that global aspect of it is going to be really important to help you be able to summarize effectively. You need that bank of vocab, a robust bank. So, like I said before, summarizing, we could talk about it for ages and ages. There are a lot of other areas of summarizing that that need to be looked into. They include writing sentence summaries of sentences, so sentence summaries, what the characteristics of a good summary is, being able to isolate that, what should be in a summary statement, very much linked to English exam preparations like IELTS, and really getting down to finding that main idea. Finding the main idea is the Achilles heel for many, many students. So a lot of work needs to be done on that alone. Identifying topic sentences and then summarizing that. So there are many, many areas that can be looked at and dealt with. So if you're interested, drop me an email, book a lesson. Let me know what you would like me to talk about in more detail, and I will prepare, and we'll see each other again maybe next week. So let me know what you're interested in. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Hi, Nomi. Okay, so all right, so that is the nutshell that I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much on summarizing. Thank you very much, Sedik, who requested a chat about summarizing, and let me know what you would like me to chat about next. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you soon, all of you. Bye-bye.